He got it linked. He's going to slipstream him right now. He's gone. He's gone. He's done it.
Nigel Mansell's finest moment perhaps was last year when he won the British Grand Prix in front of thousands of his cheering countrymen. But things have gone poorly this year. Problems with the Judd engine have led to retirements at all 7 races, leaving the Williams team in turmoil. Mansell knew it was time to make a change when his best ride of the year was the lift he hitched on Eddie Cheever's car in the Detroit morning warm-up.
I think a change is, in my career at this time, is the correct thing to do. And I feel there will be problems with any team you join, but they're new problems, and being new problems, you've got new motivation to deal with them.
The other man affected by this deal is Ferrari's Italian driver, Michele Alboreto. He is being bumped from Ferrari to make way for the Englishman.
I think I spent 5 years in a Ferrari. It was a good moment for me, bad moment too. It was a little bit up and down, but I'm happy to draw for Ferrari, and I think for me is another page for Ferrari too. But I'm not happy, not unhappy. Some good remembers, but that's the story, that's the life.
So, Nigel Mansell is set to turn to a new page in his career, but he still has 9 races with Team Williams.
Obviously, I'm very disappointed Nigel has chosen to do that. But he knows he'll get the very best of support from us for the rest of the year, and then it'll be war.
Midway between London and the Scottish border lies England's Midlands, a placid and languid sector of rolling farmlands, thatched roof cottages, medieval churches, and castellated towers. There's time here for all to enjoy the greensward, the geese, the livestock, and appreciate the golden fields of barley and other bounty of the land. Once busy commercial canals now see only an occasional and slow-moving barge edging through tiny towns, each of which has its own pub and steepled church. But once a year, this pastoral scene changes as all of England, and the world motorsports community as well, turns its attention to the tiny Midlands village of Silverstone for the annual running of the British Grand Prix. Hello, everyone. I'm Chris Economaki, in the center of all of this interest for an event that rivals the badminton horse trials as Britain's biggest spectator attraction. Tradition is everything in jolly old England. And who better to tell us about the tradition of Silverstone than one of my colleagues on today's broadcast, an international driving star who lives only a few minutes up the road in Priors, Hardwick, a 2-time American racing champion, David Hobbs.
Thanks, Chris. Well, Silverstone certainly has a lot of history attached to it. In World War II, a bomber base. In 1948, the venue of the first post-war British Grand Prix. 1950, the current World Championship, as we know it today, was inaugurated, and the very first round was held here at Silverstone. Back then, the speeds were about 90 miles an hour. They used the old perimeter taxiways, and they still do today, although amenities have changed considerably since then. A bit of old rope and some straw bales was the only safety features then. Speeds have also increased enormously, from 90 to 145 miles an hour today, and that's with the addition of the new slow complex at Woodcote Corner. But a lot of other things don't change. That very first race in 1948 was won by Maserati. They arrived too late to practice or qualify, started at the back of the grid, 1 and 2, a lap ahead. Where have we heard that before? And with more of today's race, down to John Bisignano on pit lane.
Thank you very much, David. The reason there is so much extra excitement down here in these Grand Prix pits is the fact that for the first time in 1988, McLaren has been proven fallible. They are not on pole position. Both Berger and Alboreto, both in Ferraris, are faster than them in qualifying. Berger taking pole in the last few seconds of the qualifying on Saturday. Now the question is, does Ferrari have enough fuel to run the same power settings that they use to get those qualifying positions all throughout the race? Do they have enough fuel to go the distance? Well, that drama will unfold right here on ESPN as the Grand Prix of Britain continues after these short messages. Don't miss it.
ESPN Speed World coverage of the British Grand Prix is sponsored by BF Goodrich TAs and the new all-weather Comp TA. By Quaker State Motor Oil. The Big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will. And by the Acura Legend and Integra. Precision-crafted performance exclusively at your Acura dealer.
Well, welcome back to a very wet British Grand Prix here in Silverstone. We're down right on the starting grid just moments before the start of this race, and it is absolutely miserable. No one wants to be here, especially the drivers. As far as the technical updates, everyone has really been working on aerodynamics. Many of the cars have been making several final warm-up laps trying to tune those wings. Alain Prost, he has actually just changed the rear wing on his McLaren. Now, going down the list, Michele Alboreto seems very confident. He only did one warm-up lap, but he's still trying to get the settings on the front wings exactly right. Berger was totally unhappy and a bit excited about his settings. I don't think that he's happy yet. Now, the McLaren boys, as always, they are trying to get things sorted out, but still, to change a rear wing just moments before the start of a race has to be disturbing for Senna. And also Prost, both rear wings being changed there. The Williams cars, they are ready to go. Petresi was changing front wings, not just the settings, but the entire wing. Lotus, they are A-OK. They've done very little. Benetton's OK. We had a spin by De Cesaris on the warm-up lap. We are not sure exactly of his status, and Julian Bailey is still in the pits. Not too good a news for Julian. The Arrows car, Cheever is fine, and Derek Warwick has one heck of a misfire that is still a mystery. The big problem is not only the rain, but the spray off these tires, and no one wants to go down this straightaway and not be able to see a darn thing in front of them. All the rain lights are on down here in the pits. Chris, back to you to a nice, warm, dry booth.
Well, John, I don't envy you down there in today's weather. Silverstone, supposedly the fastest track on the circuit, may not be that today because of the weather. And as far as qualifying goes, Gerhard Berger, a 28-year-old Austrian, after a furious battle for the pole, put his Ferrari in the #1 spot at 152.4 miles an hour, fastest of the year. His teammate, Italian Michele Alboreto, given his walking papers earlier in the week, starts second, putting Ferrari in both front row places. This year's perennial pole starter, Brazil's Ayrton Senna, can only manage a third place in his supposedly improved McLaren Honda. And fourth in the lineup is the sport's biggest winner, two-time world champion McLaren mounted Alain Prost of France, with 32 checkered flags to his credit. Following are a pair of 25-year-old March drivers, Mauricio Gugelmin of Brazil and Ivan Capelli of Italy. Defending world champion Nelson Piquet, never a winner here, is next in his Lotus Honda. Bright Italian star Alessandro Nannini is 8th, as Derek Warwick, one of only 4 Britons in the race, follows in his Arrows. Japan's representative Satoru Nakajima is 10th in his Lotus Honda, ahead of last year's winner Nigel Mansell of Britain as Williams Judd. And Belgian Terry Boutsen for Benetton, America's own Eddie Cheever for Arrows, a pair of Italians, Andrea De Cesaris and Riccardo Patrese are next. Then it's the tall Frenchman, Philippe Streff, Britain's Dr. Jonathan Palmer, Spain's lone representative Luis Perez Sala, 3 young Italians, Pierluigi Martini, Stefano Modena, and Alex Caffey. 2 more Frenchmen, Philippe Ayot and Yannick Dalmas in Lolas, and bringing up the rear of Britain's Julian Bailey, Francis René Arnoux at 40, the old man of the race, with Italian rookie Nicola Larini starting last. The track here is flat and it's fast, and popular with fans, and when wet, unpopular with drivers due to its great speed. Despite only 21,000 seats, 14,000 permanent and 7,000 temporary, crowds of well over 100,000 attend the British Grand Prix. It's an interesting and historic circuit, and here's my colleague David Hobbs to tell us about it.
Well, there you see a great aerial shot of the old aerodrome. You can see the runways quite clearly, and about 150,000 people are going to pour into this circuit on the Friday, Saturday and Sunday of this race weekend. There you see more of a map of the circuit, 2.969 miles, 66 laps, 195 odd miles. A very, very high-speed track, the fastest in the Grand Prix calendar, and very, very daunting. Gerhard Berger approaching Copse at about 180, down to 4th as he sweeps through Copse. Very fast through there, 135, 140 miles an hour, up to 4th, 5th, sweeps through Maggot's Curve, what a name, up to about 180 again, hard on the brakes for Beckett's, down to 4th, or probably 3rd there maybe for some of the turbo cars, up through the gears again, it goes round Chapel Curve, another very fast left-hand sweep, onto Hanger Straight. In qualifying, the cars are reaching about 196 miles an hour down here in 6th gear, of course. Today, they'll be slower down here. 5th through this corner, Stowe, extremely fast, very daunting curve. Berger using all the road and a little bit more there. As he hangs on to 5th, down into the straight, into Club Corner, another very fast corner with a very adverse camber, using those concrete runoff areas again, up to a very fast Abbey Curve, into 6th, getting around one of the slower cars there. Today, this will be the fastest part of the course, probably 200 miles an hour as you get to that bridge. Down to 2nd, very sharp left, a horrible, slippery, nasty off-camber right-hander as he goes up through the box. 2nd, 3rd, 4th, sweeps through the old woodcut curve now. Up to 6th speed again as he goes down past the pit lane, once again completing another extremely fast lap for Gerhard Berger.
Well, we've got a wet day here at Silverstone, England. It's 65 degrees, it's cool, the wind is blowing, the skies are overcast, and the drizzle persists. It's 100% humidity, the winds are out of the rest at 15 miles an hour, gusting to 25 miles an hour, which should prove troublesome for the drivers. And the forecast is for on and off rain all day long. Stay with us because we'll be back for the British Grand Prix after these messages. We're going to start out on the formation lap where this British Grand Prix has just been given, and as you can see, the spray is intense. The officials have declared it a wet race, which means that there'll be no official stopping of the race to change tires. We'll tell you a little bit about that later on. Now, my colleague David Hobbs and John Bisignano and I have decided how this race is going to finish. David, give us the top 6, please.
Well, I must say that I have to qualify this. I'm not at all confident with today's weather, but I go for Senna, wet or dry, followed by Berger and Prost, because they are just two outstanding drivers. Then Thierry Boutsen could well lead the normally aspirated guys home, followed by Capelli, who did so well in qualifying. And Nelson Piquet's experience in wet, dry, and all sorts of racing should see him in the points with 6. But, as I say, don't hold me to it.
Oh, stop equivocating, David. John Bisignano, let's have a firm top 6 from you, please.
No problem with giving you a firm top 6. Ayrton Senna, the greatest mudder in the Formula One. I have to have him for the winner, followed by Prost, his teammate. Berger in the Ferrari as number 3. Cheever, the American driver, also a great mudder. I feel that he will come 4th. Piquet, I want to see him go in the 5th place, and maybe a bit of a romanticist here. We want Nigel Mansell to get at least 1 point for his British Grand Prix. After such a great victory last year, I have to put Mansell in the Williams in the top 6.
Okay, now after watching Michele Alboreto change his style after he got fired from Ferrari and almost winning a pole position and looking pretty good in the pre-race warm-up, I'm picking Alboreto on the Ferrari to win, with Senna 2nd, Alain Prost 3rd, Capelli, the young Italian, 4th, Gerhard Berger, our pole starter, 5th, and Jonathan Palmer is feeling that Britons always do well in their home Grand Prix. All right, now the cars are just coming into the main straightaway, the Woodcote corner. They'll be stopping in their respective starting positions here on the main straightaway of this great racetrack. After the last car has stopped, the red light will go on, and then between 4 and 7 seconds, the starting green will be given, and the British Grand Prix will be underway.
Well, one of the things I would like to be today is near the front, because the spray is going to be absolutely unbelievable this afternoon, and anybody who's more than about 2 or 3 rows back is going to have a very unpleasant afternoon.
David, what do the drivers put on their visors in the conditions like this?
Well, there's all sorts of Indian snake juice used to stop misting up. One of the very best, actually, is soft soap, believe it or not. Helps to keep these visors free of mist. But if you get hot and wet, you do perspire a lot, and you do get the visors mist up. Jonathan Palmer has gone into the pits. A very bad start for...
All right, let's go to John Bisignano to find out more.
Palmer came in very quickly for a unscheduled pit stop before the start of this race. He definitely has a problem, and it was a misfire. Back to you.
Well, the start is underway, and everybody is spinning wheels in the marches back, and they're looking pretty good. And now they're absolutely obliterated by the spray. I wouldn't want to be driving after the first row, as you said, David.
As you can see, you can't see anything if you're back there in that spray, and you've absolutely got to do it by instinct. And if the guy in front crashes or stops suddenly, you're going to run into him. It's as simple as that.
Look at that trail of spray, and out front, the Ferrari, but they've been split now by Ayrton Senna in 2nd place in his McLaren. Look at those rooster tails.
Senna made a good start. Prost's car faltered badly on that start, as it did when they went up on the parade lap. So I think that he got a bottom-end misfire. We saw one of the arrows being overtaken there by Gugelmin in those Leighton House marches. And it's a Leighton House march that's lying 4th in that curtain of spray. And look at Senna coming down the main straight, Hanger Straight there, going into Stowe. A lot of water lies at the bottom of that straight because it's a downhill straight, and it runs down the hill. It's as simple as that. Collect puddles. Very, very dangerous and very unnerving for the drivers from the aquaplaning point of view.
Well, Gerhard Berger, the pole starter, has the lead. Ayrton Senna is in 2nd place, and here we have our first off-course episode of the race, and Palmer's car, he's a man I picked to finish 6th, is being worked on in the pits. A tough break for the doctor here from England. And now, Senna made one bold try against Berger. Berger staved it off, so Senna will sit there for a while. Alboreto lies 3rd as this race, which will go 66 laps.
You can still see the stickers on the left front tyre of Ayrton Senna's car. They're new wet tyres, and the paper sticker is still on there. So as you can see, they're not wearing them out much. The 2 lead cars making a big gap between themselves and Alboreto in that second Ferrari. Alboreto, as you've already stated, having his walking papers.
Behind the first 3 turbos are the 2 marchers, the Brazilian Gugelmin and the Italian Capelli, and then here we have Alessandro Nannini. These cars do not have turbochargers, and they're probably better off for today's race, wouldn't you say, David?
They certainly will have a bit of advantage on coming up some of these corners. The power won't come on quite as quickly, and they have a little bit more throttle response to play with. But today is a real leveler, and this is going to be a driver day more than a chassis day. There we see Alex. Is that Alex Caffey? No, that's not Alex Caffey. That's our leader, who's already lapped a car there. That must be Jonathan Palmer, having pulled out of the pits.
Well, it's going to really be an interesting session here because of the fuel consumption. The problem with it they face today, these cars are so highly sophisticated, they're tuned to the conditions, and they haven't seen these conditions just early today. So many of the cars are not really properly adjusted for the kind of weather we're seeing. All right, now let's, with Gerhard Berger leading Ayrton Senna, let's go back and get another look at the start and watch the rear wheels on the front 2 cars as the flag goes
See
down.
Prost there hesitating. The Leighton March already around him. One of the Benettons pulling alongside him. A bit of a narrow squeeze there as Alan Prost back there drops right back to 11th or 12th at the start there. Not a very good start for Alan Prost, considering the weather conditions, because fighting past people when it's like this is not easy at all. There we see Alboreto also overtaking Jonathan Palmer, who unfortunately started after the field had gone round at least once, so he's a lap down already.
That's a tough break for the doctor in one of the 2 Tyrrell cars.
Now, all that spray, of course, is very, very off-putting for the other drivers, and but what it does mean, of course, is that these huge wet racing tyres pump thousands of gallons a minute off this track and throw it up into the air. So if it doesn't rain again, and right at the moment it doesn't appear to be raining, it obviously dries out remarkably quickly. Although on the horizon, see it looking out of the booth here, it doesn't look like it's going to clear up.
Well, it looks as though our leader Gerhard Berger is opening up a bit of a margin there over Ayrton Senna. Got about just a shade over a 1-second advantage. And there we have Nigel Mansell.
Right up with one of those Leighton House marches, so he must be right on hot on his heels. The march there overtaking Jonathan Palmer. Capelli there being overtaken by Mansell, and they're coming up on Jonathan Palmer. Obviously more difficult for them to lap him than the turbocharged, the other way around. Difficult for them to lap him, of course, because he's got the same sort of power as they have.
Well, the marches looked very good in dry track practice and qualifying, but it's a new team with new drivers, and it was noted during the preparations for the start that the March team really is, because it's so new, doesn't know how to set the cars up, or is not confident they know how to set the cars up for a rainy and wet track, and the drivers are not all that experienced in the wet either. The number of Grand Prix that Gugelmin has, he has only been in 6 races, and Capelli's been in 26 races, so they are relatively inexperienced drivers.
Well, of course, the other thing is one of the reasons the marches went so well in qualifying was the way they had the cars set up by an IndyCar designer, and this is kind of the nearest thing in Grand Prix racing to an IndyCar track, but not today. So all their trickery for that shouldn't help them too much, but they are, in fact, going extremely well today. But Nigel Mansell is really putting on a charge. There we see our leader, Gerhard Berger.
It was 10 years ago that the IndyCars visited here, and I was on hand as A.J. Foyt scored an impressive victory on the Silverstone circuit, aided in great way by Jackie Stewart, who took him around and showed him how to drive the circuit. I guess there's secrets to getting around here, huh, David?
Well, there's a lot of secrets to getting around this track, but it's not often they come out on a very, very wet race today, very difficult, but we'll be back with more of this extremely tricky race from Silverstone in just a few minutes.
Proud to bring you the U.S. Pro Championship tennis matches. The semifinals coming up Saturday at 1 p.m. and the finals on Sunday at 4 o'clock From the Longwood Cricket Club in Brookline, Massachusetts, outside Boston, defending champion Mats Wilander, teenage sensation Andy Agassi, and Kent Carlson among the top players entered in this event. The total purse is over $400,000. This event is the world's oldest professional tennis tournament. Past champions include Rod Laver, Jimmy Connors, Ken Rosewall, and Bjorn Borg. And now, David, the leader, Gerhard Berger, as you said, is drying out some of the track. And the groove here in front of the pits in the Woodcote corner is drying out. And Lee Gogg, the Goodyear tire man, said earlier that if this should happen here, why the rain tires would only last about 15 laps.
They don't last at all in the dry conditions, but it's also raining again extremely hard. It's streaming down the window of our commentary booth here, and I don't think that dry line is going to continue to get much drier. There we see the race for third and fourth spot, which is Gugelmin in the March, followed very closely by Nannini in the Benetton. And obviously he, I think, is being held up by Gugelmin, and if he gets around him, he will make very serious strides in on Alboreto, who is in front of these guys. Alboreto is losing ground to his teammate Berger and Ayrton Senna. And right behind these two is Nigel Mansell, just about to come into the picture. There he is now.
With 6 laps in the book, Senna has now dropped almost 2 seconds behind Berger. I guess he's given up.
No, I think honestly he's taking it a bit steady, and if he's right behind him, he can't see anything at all. If he's a little bit back, he can at least see something in the spray, and he also knows the guy's not 10 feet in front of him if anything goes wrong, because he won't see him if he's 10 feet in front of him. There we see Nannini having a go. If he gets around Gugelmin, he'll pull away. But that's particularly hard for him because he can't see anything. I mean, it's like driving down the interstate behind a truck, and you know what that can be like on a wet day, and it's worse than that.
That's it. It really takes a lot of nerve to go fast in these things. Speaking of speed, it was interesting to watch the difference in the lap speed between the qualifying and this morning's warm-up. The qualifying speed for Berg was 152.402 miles an hour. The best speed posted this morning during the warm-up on the wet track was by Ayrton Senna, and his speed was 138.8, a difference of 13.5 miles an hour slower because of the wet track.
Well, they'll be going even slower right now, I would imagine, because it really is wet now. Actually, one thing I ought to have qualified on the course description earlier on, why they're slower down hanger today than they are up into the chicane at Woodcote, is because of the wind direction. There's a very, very strong wind blowing straight up hanger and helping the cars up to that complex. A very close race here for third as Nigel Mansell catches up with him, and now Nannini will really be wanting to get round Capelli.
Well, with Gerhard Berger leading, it's appropriate to bring you a little chat we had with him about joining forces with Nigel Mansell. We asked him if he's worried that Nigel Mansell will overshadow him when he's his teammate next year.
No, I'm not too worried about it, because number one, in a good team, it's not number one, number two. If it's a big team, like McLaren, like Ferrari, who is number one in McLaren? Senna or Prost? Huh? Nobody. And same as in Ferrari. And I am sure if I sign my contract and I would fight for number one status, I'm sure I would get. But I don't need it. Ferrari is a big team. I just want my engine and my car and finish. And the quicker driver is number one. Doesn't matter.
Interesting dialogue, and there's the yellow-helmeted Mauricio Gugelmin.
Now, one thing we saw there was Nannini tried to go down and brake on the inside of Gugelmin. Of course, one of the problems when it's really wet like this is they do make a semi-dry sort of line. You can see that it's just a little bit drier where they go. And, of course, your braking area, where you want to brake and pass the guy, you're right back on the really wettest part of the track. So it makes overtaking extremely hazardous if you're going to really stick the old neck out, as it were.
Well, this is an
having another go there.
Right here, Mansell is dogging these guys. Mansell started 11th, and he's up to 6th now, and he's coming right along. Now, he's done exactly what you said Senna's doing. He's getting a view here. But
he's getting a view. He was a bit slow off the hairpin that time. Of course, one thing that will be giving Mansell and Patrese heart today, I'm sure, is that they've had constant overheating problems this year. But, of course, in the rain, that should go away, as their radiators will work far, far more efficiently today by being sprayed with all this water. So we may see a Williams finish, and if it finishes, I think Mansell will do well.
And here the March is powered by a V8 Judd engine. It's a Honda derivative, and the car directly behind it has the latest of Ford's racing engines. the Italian Nannini, is putting the pressure on Gugelmin, who's a first-year Formula One driver and doing exceptionally well, I might add, this year, and in the rain today.
Very, very well indeed. I mean, trickiest conditions that you could possibly have. And there's no doubt about it that Silverstone, for a wet track, is the worst because it collects water so much. And, of course, it's such a high-speed track that with the best will in the world, if you go down the straight flat out in the rain, and you're 10 miles an hour off maximum, you're still doing 185 miles an hour instead of 195.
But there's still some things to say for Silverstone. One is it's just very, very wide, so there's plenty of room to get by as someone in trouble. And the verges are extremely wide. A lot of runoff area here, which I'm sure the drivers like.
They like it in the dry, but I tell you, have you ever driven on wet grass? You definitely pick up speed. It's a very unnerving feeling when you're spinning down the road and you hit the wet grass and immediately accelerate again.
Why would you drive on wet grass, David?
Well, I mean, obviously, to get some lawn mowing experience. There we see that dice for third place. Split up a little bit now. Nigel Mansell still dogging these two guys. It's interesting that all the flack that the Judd engines take. Up there's Philip Streff.
Look at the rear wing on the car.
That's Philip Streff's day run. There you see the rain light. That light at the back is not a brake light. That is a rain light. The cars are obliged to run that in the race so that you can attempt to at least see them in this spray. And I don't see one on the back of Berger's car there.
That's right. And if the officials note that, they could very well bring them in for violation of the rules.
Yeah. Officials here like officiating. You know, officials the world over. Give them a jacket and a hat.
And they become officious.
They become officious.
You know, the officials here are interesting.
About to put a lap on one of the Lolas. I don't know whether...
Britain is noted for having the best marshals in all of Formula One racing. They take it very seriously. And we call them workers in the United States, these men and women who staff communication points, flag stands, and telephone centers. And they're called marshals here. And the long-established British Motor Racing Marshals Club has a membership of several thousand, and is headed by Britain's #1 TV race broadcaster, Murray Walker. Look at here, and Eddie Cesaris coming in his Real.
Very slowly, but I don't know quite why.
The marshals here staff the smallest races and rallies right up to the British Grand Prix. They undergo rigorous training as regards procedures, safety, and firefighting, and own their own incident vehicles. And members are thoroughly trained in their use and the equipment carried thereupon. There's no pay, but professional they are, and when not racing, enjoy social gatherings, athletic events, and other organized activities. So, with the marshals getting very wet in the turns out there, and Gerhard Berger leading Ayrton Senna and Michele Alboreto, we'll be back for more of the British Grand Prix after these.
Is brought to you by USF&G Financial Services. Asset management tools for a brave new world.
You may have heard several explanations between dry and wet tires. Well, this one's going to be perfectly clear. A racing slick. What happens in the wet with this tire is that the water is trapped underneath the tire as the car goes down the wet track. It only takes a millimeter of water to actually lift the entire vehicle off the road. It's called aquaplaning, something that's very disturbing to drivers that are well over maybe 150, 170, 80 miles an hour to lose contact with the road. Solution, the Goodyear Wet. Of course, it's a very deep groove tire, lots of tread. And when the water makes contact with this tire, as you can see, it's channeled through these grooves and is actually expelled out from underneath the tire so that the tire makes contact with the road even under flooded conditions at high-speed driving. Also, the compound is very soft and will develop grip in very cold, damp weather.
Stops and starts, and the minute it stops, these wide tires start to move out the water and dry out the groove. Meantime, Ayrton Senna is closing on leader Gerhard Berger.
And also, these other four cars are closing in on Alboreto, his teammate, so the race for third place is now amongst four cars. And as it dries out, the spray reduces, and obviously the cars go faster. You can see the dry line there starting to develop, but it does make that overtaking difficult, as I say, because the overtaking car has to move off that nice dry line onto the wet. Of course, obviously, nothing like as good.
So right now, Gerhard Berger has a 1.5-second lead over Ayrton Senna. What it's like being stalked there, David, knowing Berger obviously knows Senna's there, sees him in his mirror.
Oh, Nannini having a go there, getting really frustrated now because he knows that Nigel's right behind him. The trouble with an overtaking effort like that, when it fails, you lose a lot of time. If it doesn't work, you really have mucked up that lap, as you can see from the way that Mansell is now right behind Nannini. Well, Nannini's got to be careful. He wants to pass that car in front of him, and he's got Mansell breathing down his neck right there, so he's the meat in the sandwich. Boy, this looks pretty hairy to me. Because they can't really see any better than we can see. You can see when the picture goes completely blank in that spray. Well, for them, it's just the same. What is the visibility, David? How far ahead of their cars can the drivers see? Well, but hardly any. I mean, virtually none, if they're in the real wet. Now we see that dry line developing. The spray has abated a little bit, but it's still, as I say, you go offline, you're in big trouble. Now they might have to start going offline soon to keep the tires cool. Well, not only that, the leader, Berger's moving in on some slower cars. He's going to have to get off the dry line to do the lapping, and that will give Senna a chance to close some ground. Nannini going to have another go here at Beckett's. Oh, no. Now you see, look at the gap when, by trying to outbrake him, he got offline and lost a lot of momentum. So he won't be able to have another go, I wouldn't think, coming down here to Beckett's. There's the slower car getting offline, which is pretty good of him. Most unusual. Playing a gentleman on this rainy day. Yes. Well, Gugelman's reputation is certainly being enhanced with this drive today. Boy, I'll say, he's obviously very good. He did extremely well in Formula 3000, which is the major stepping stone into Formula 1, and is obviously proving his worth here today on the wet at Silverstone. This team, Gugelman, Capelli, and the March, to be fair, have done the majority of their testing here at Silverstone, so they all know the circuit, and the cars are really set up for this circuit. Julian Bailey, the newcomer to Formula 1, said that this is only the second track on the whole series that he knows, and he said it's so nice to know where the corners are. So I guess it's tough for a newcomer to come to a track. Nigel Mansell nearly got Nannini then. Nannini was trying to get around Capelli, and in the meantime, Nigel nearly slipped on the inside of Nannini. These three are having a tremendous dice, and they're only just behind Alboreto in the Ferrari. You know, last year's race was all Nigel Mansell. It was a magnificent competition, and now it looks like Nigel is putting on the show today. He is. Senna, in the meantime, has moved to within 0.3 of a second of leader Gerhard Berger. But this is the race this afternoon. There we see Senna in second place. You can see how the spray has died down, relatively speaking. In fact, has Senna taken the lead there? Is that the Ferrari right behind him now? I think you'll find that Senna comes through in the lead. There's the Ferrari behind him. Right. We have a new leader in the form of the Brazilian Ayrton Senna. Car number 12, 28 years old. It's his 70th Grand Prix start. And he's recognized as the fastest. There we see his with the red light on as he comes into the Woodcote complex there. The spray dying away, and he's definitely got the drop on Berger now. And I must say that all conditions being equal, wet, dry, or whatever it is, whatever car he's driving, Ayrton Senna at the moment, I think, is undoubtedly the fastest thing on four wheels. An extremely fast young guy, and he's gaining experience rapidly, and his race craft is improving immensely. What is it, David, that makes a good rain driver as opposed to a good dry driver? Well, I think the very fast reactions, and of course great balance. You need tremendous balance and feel. There's look from above, a helicopter shot of Ayrton Senna, and he started to pull away. He's going to build some leading just in case this track does dry out and he has to make a stop for slicks. It's said that 20 seconds is really needed to make a pit stop and get out without losing much time. Yeah, you need at least a 20-second lead, but if he has to stop and change, obviously everybody else will. But it's always nice to build a cushion between yourself and your pursuers in case anything goes wrong. You might get balked very badly or have a spin or a half spin. The rain apparently has obviated any of the team's fuel problems that may have existed, correct? I would say so, yes. There we see that line drying as we come into the slow left and right corner here. See, he goes wide there on the outside. That's a trick that a lot of racing drivers use. I recommended my son Greg to use it the other day in the wet practice for the Formula 3 race. You go around the outside of the line, even in the wet, you sometimes get better grip in the wet because the line itself is so covered in rubber and oil from all the dry race days, and if you go offline, you sometimes pick up a bit of speed. Now the leader
Ayrton Senna has passed Alain Prost, putting him a lap down. Now, this is a first for Grand Prix racing in 1988. One of the McLarens going a lap down.
It certainly is. Alan has actually, I'm sure, got a serious misfire problem. It wouldn't move off the grid. He had a job to get it going on the formation lap, and he's obviously got a major engine problem, but he's decided to stick it out.
Senna has moved out now to the last time around 1.6 seconds, but now Berger's come back. The slower cars apparently take a while to figure out and get around. Here comes Berger bearing down on Senna.
I think Berger is in the same mold as Senna, quite honestly. There's no doubt about it. He is one of, there we see one of the chills. That's Jonathan Palmer again. Got a problem just on the approach to the pits. In fact, he is in pit lane now. As the leaders come up through Abbey Curve, there, that left-hand rising curve, extremely fast, absolutely flat out, under the bridge, and then this new complex to slow them down. And as we saw, the qualifying speed today was 152 miles an hour, an increase over last year, and it's just incredible how these cars keep coming back.
It looks as though they're getting ready in the pits now for some possible scheduled pit stops. That was the Lotus pit. They're standing by ready to put the slick tires on.
There we see the pass.
Oh, it's a replay.
The thing that gave Senna the place was that Berger came up on Senna's teammate, Alain Prost, coming through Abbey, that very fast curve, and Prost just blocked him, and Senna whistled by them both. Ooh,
tight
Prost
squeeze there.
Prost didn't see him coming there. Prost not having a good day.
No, that's for sure.
Berger nearly retakes Senna on the right-hander.
Even in slow motion, they look extraordinarily slow there. And back to full speed ahead.
So that was a position completely reversed from last week, where we saw Alain Prost make that magnificent pass on Ayrton Senna.
Right.
Today the position was reversed. The fastest part of the track, tricky left-hand curve, very wet conditions, and Senna saw the opportunity coming and grabbed it.
Well, it looks like Ayrton Senna is trying to find some wet portions of the track to keep those tires cool. And we'll be back for more of the British Grand Prix after these messages. Well, while we're away for the commercial, something very important happened. The sun came out for a moment, went behind a cloud. Then the British weather here is really vacillating. In the meantime, Ayrton Senna continues to lead with Gerhard Berger about 1.6 seconds behind. This is a famous race and has had some great winners over the years. Recent winners of the British Grand Prix include Nigel Mansell the last 2 years, way back in 1985. Alain Prost of France won it. In 84, the Austrian star Niki Lauda was the champion. It was Prost again in 83, and Lauda won for the first time back in 1982. John Watson of Northern Ireland was the 81 victor, and Australian Alan Jones was the 1980 champion. Clay Regazzoni of Switzerland took it in 1979, and Carlos Reutemann of Argentina won the year before that. Right now, it's a Brazilian, Ayrton Senna, out in front, being pursued by an Austrian, Gerhard Berger. You can look at the moisture coming off the wings. Watch this.
It's quite incredible. It's the same as you see on an airliner when you're landing at an airport through cloud. You see how it beats the cloud into the thick atmosphere. And there, Nigel Mansell having a go around Nannini as they come down to Copse Corner. Ooh, this is pretty hairy. He's trying to get around Alboreto as well. He duffs up Nannini, who spins.
There's the first spin we've seen of the day.
A good spin there by Nannini. Left the thing pointing in the right direction, sticks it into first, and he's off. But now he's hot. Alboreto is the next on Mansell's menu for absolute sure. But these guys are a long way behind the lead. The leading duo have got a 42-second lead.
It's unbelievable the way those lead cars handle on this wet racetrack. But I'd rather watch Nigel Mansell when he gets going.
Here we see it again.
Quick move from right to left.
Right out to the rain. You can see how wet it is there. And, of course, he barges down the inside of Nannini, who's trying to get down the inside of Alboreto. And Nannini is definitely the meat in the sandwich here. Nigel nearly gets chopped off there by Alboreto. There on the dry, and Nannini goes round, kicks the old clutch in, turns into the skid, or the way of the skid, and gets the thing right around instead of halfway around. Bit of good driving there by Nannini, actually.
It really didn't cost him too much. He had enough on the car in front of him. He had, about 6 seconds on the car behind him, and
I don't think it cost him a place.
All right, let's now get down to our pit colleague, John Visignano, who's in the McLaren pit.
Well, still a very wet pit down here in Silverstone, but the reason that Alain Prost has been lapped, very unusual thing, is that his pop-off valve is opening prematurely. There's a valve on these turbocharged engines that only let them run 2.5 bar. They won't tell us exactly what it is popping off at. That means it may be opening at 0.2 or 2.5, 2.3, 2.1. But he is definitely down on horsepower. It's something that you cannot change during a pit stop. They're going to leave him out there, and Crichton, Brown, and McLaren said, we're just going to hope everyone else falls off. But Alain Prost, a lap down, very unusual sight. Back to you, Chris.
All right, thank you, John. Well, mechanical problems persist whether the sun is out or the rain is dropping, and that's what's happened to Prost. Meantime, yes. Nigel Mansell's putting on the show today.
Yeah, he certainly is. He's pulled up from a relatively lowly grid position, and he's now really duking it out with Michele Alboreto, the man who is going to replace the Ferrari next year. And, of course, the Ferrari people will be congratulating themselves, saying, see, we did the right thing, because Nigel Mansell is about to put their man away.
Well, I don't know. Mr. Alboreto can't be too happy about who's behind him. It may make it pretty tough for Nigel to get by.
Yes, I'll tell you what's interesting. Do you see that the Ferrari is leaving the air vortexes at the end, or the moisture vortex is coming off the end of the Ferrari wing and not coming off the wing of the Williams?
Well, you know what that tells you, David? Nigel's a little bit favored today and has less wing in the car.
Well, that's just about what it does tell you. And I think also it shows that the Ferrari can afford to run all that much more wing, because it's got a lot more horsepower being turbocharged, and of course they carry more wing, and you can see it.
Here he comes on the inside of Alboreto, wheel to wheel, side by side. Not too often do we see this in Formula One, and Nigel Mansell moves up one more notch into third place.
And the crowd here at Silverstone going absolutely burlesque, of course, as their hero Nigel Mansell moves up into third spot, taking away from his ousted, or his ex-sort of teammate.
No, that happens. You know, Mansell has not finished a race all year long. He won 6 races last year. He's not got a single World Championship point. And let's hope that this Williams Judd hangs together for the balance of the competition today.
The crowd absolutely roaring as he passes the commentary box here, waving the old Union Jacks, all leaping to their feet, standing to attention, saluting as Nigel Mansell takes third spot away. Now, of course, can he make any ground? Having got past that other competition, can he make any ground on our leading duo? And it'll be interesting to see if he does bring that time down. And now, I guess, Nigel, if anything, could do with a sprinkling more rain, because the last thing he wants it to do now is to dry out much more.
Well, here's our leader, Ayrton Senna, who's now moved almost 3 seconds ahead of Gerhard Berger. And that's the widest interval between first and second place we've seen in the race today.
And Mansell, in fact, is 47 seconds down on our leader, so it'll be interesting to see if he can manage to make any of that time up. He's now 48 seconds down, so he's obviously lost a bit of ground on that last lap, but that was the lap he got round Alboreto, which cost him a little bit of time. Now he's on his own, he's free of Alboreto. Maybe he'll be able to pick up some ground on the 2 lead cars.
How tough is this track on gearboxes, Dave?
It's not very tough. This is about a 15-shift circuit. They're all open approaches. You just use the top 3 or the top 2 ratio sometimes, so it's not a tough gearbox track. Not like a Detroit.
Well, you know, it seems to me with all this high-tech electronic this and computer control that and telemetry and so forth that these cars still have manual transmissions. I'd like to see some automatic transmissions come along. We talked to Alain Prost before the race about the Silverstone circuit and his chances here. He's the man that's just been lapped.
The only problem we have here, I have, is if it rains. It's a very dangerous track when it's wet, and it's not funny. We need to change everything on the car. It's not going to be the same race. We know fuel consumption problem. That's good for some people, but it's not good for me.
Well, I don't think that's the reason why Alain Prost is lagging today. He obviously has a serious engine problem. You can hear it as he goes past you. It's misfiring extremely badly. So he's right out of the points at the moment. He's lying in a 16th spot, so will be totally pointless. And if Senna goes on to win this race, that will close the gap seriously as far as Alain Prost is concerned between himself and Senna, as Prost is lying first at the moment with a 15-point lead over Ayrton.
Well, that's going to be the interesting part of the last half of the season. The World Championship is, of course, a very, very desired goal. But the individual concern, it's millions of dollars one way or another, is it not?
It's absolutely millions of dollars. They get paid millions of dollars anyway, these top guys. But of course, winning the World Championship puts you into the promo type of class where you can go out and give a day's talk and expect to get $25,000 or $50,000 a day for public appearances and this sort of thing. I mean, you can make a lot of money. And of course, endorsements come rolling in. You don't have to go scratching around looking for the money yourself. It tends to come to you. Make a lot of money, especially if you promote yourself well.
I know. Mansell's contract with Ferrari is said to be worth $5 million for next year. It's just unbelievable. Win, lose, or draw.
Mind-boggling. I would make $5 million in 2 lifetimes.
If the finish stays as it is now, why Ayrton Senna will move to within 6 points of leader Alain Prost in this hot battle for the 1988 World Driving Championship.
And for Alain Prost, 6 points is not much. That's, you know, 1 DNF, and Senna comes second. That puts him on tie.
Another bad pop-off valve, who knows?
Yeah.
The interval between first and second now is opened up to almost 5 seconds, with Ayrton Senna clearly out front in that number 12 McLaren Honda.
And Mansell, even with having a clear run, is now still dropping back. He's now 52 seconds behind the Honda. As it dries out, the Honda McLaren is going to continue to waltz away with this race, and Mansell and Nannini and Boutsen, they really, really need rain. I think down in the pits we've got John Bisignano, who's got a little bit more information for us on Alain Prost. John?
Thank you, David. It's not actually on Alain Prost. It's his teammate and the leader of this British Grand Prix, Ayrton Senna. You said he was going to be waltzing away, and actually we have Prost in the pits at this moment. He has just come in. He surprised everyone. We are trying to get in position. His mechanics were not ready. They are pushing the car. He is out of the car. Alain Prost is not a man who's going to sit out there with maybe 100 horsepower less than everyone else. Alain Prost coming out of the British Grand Prix, definitely very unhappy with his engine situation. They are pushing it in the garage. To bring you back up to date on Ayrton Senna, they have signaled him to reduce his turbo power. They have told him to turn down the boost. The computers in the garage area, they say that he is using too much fuel. So you are going to see him turning down the boost, trying to conserve that fuel. Even though it's wet conditions, they put a loud downforce on these cars in wet conditions, and therefore they use just as much fuel as they do in the dry. Watch Senna to be slowing down on the straightaways. Back to you.
Okay, what about Nigel Mansell swerving like that, David?
Well, Nigel Mansell, as we go near some more commercial messages, is going for the wet spots on this track. You can see him weaving around as he makes the best use of cooling his tires down.
Be interesting to watch Mansell there. I wonder if he's gaining any speed by that, or does he just be dazzling the man behind him?
He's losing speed by doing it, but he's using all the track here to try and keep his tires cool. He doesn't particularly want to change onto slicks yet in case it rains again. So he wants to use those tires up, but Nannini doesn't seem to be taking much notice of it. He's just going to the dry bits.
Well, it takes a lot of knowledge to know how to do these various things at the wheel of a racing car, going as fast as they're going. Here's Michele Alboreto, car number 27. He's back in 5th place now, and he's ahead of Mauricio Gugelmin and behind Nannini. So there's a battle now for 5th place, and we'll be back for more of the British Grand Prix after these commercial messages. Mansell now has somebody else in his sights.
Just seen a fantastic overtaking move there by Nannini, who didn't do what Nigel did, wander all over the road looking for the dry, just kept going straight and picked up about 50 yards and nailed old Nige as they went into the right-left complex of Woodcote. Here we see a replay of it. Nigel looking for the wet on the right of your picture. Nannini sticking to the line. Nigel comes back to the area to brake, and Nannini more or less keeps straight on and outbrakes him on the wet part of the track and retakes 3rd spot.
Not bad for somebody that spun here a few laps ago.
Exactly what I was thinking. Where the heck did he come from in the first place?
Back live, he was Alessandro Nannini, the young comer in the Benetton engine, or the Ford engine Benetton team. And look at him, he's throwing water at Nigel Mansell. Now there, we don't see sparks much anymore. We saw a few there. The officials didn't like the idea.
Nannini getting out of shape as he goes through stone. Now that got his little old Italian heart going, I can tell you. Doing 145, 150 mile an hour in the wet, and he tweaks like, if we can see it twitching like that, it felt a lot worse than that in the car.
Well, it looks to me, David, as this weather holds like this, we're going to have to see some pit stops for changing.
Very soon, I think. And these rain tires will be going off very shortly.
Now, Nigel Mansell has been in the headlines all week, along with his team owner, Frank Williams, about this switch from Williams to Ferrari by Mansell. We talked to Frank Williams before the race about the ambiance in his factory. It's been a tough year.
That's a pretty perceptive question, because it made a big difference when we were able to say that we're going to work with Renault for the next 3 years. The Renault engine's been announced. It looks a good, powerful engine. They say it's giving good power already. But above all, Renault have been racing before and know that you can make a lot of mistakes, but you can soon get out if you're determined, if your group is good, well structured. And I think the Renault people will give us the very best of equipment next year.
Well, they're looking for a V10 engine from the French manufacturer and have high hopes for doing well. And of course, the move by Mansell to Ferrari has had a domino effect. Everybody's talking about who's going to go where. Nelson Piquet seems to be asking around and getting some turndowns.
Whoa,
to hang in there.
Really sliding there as he goes through Stowe. Actually, the most interesting thing to come out of it is it looks fairly certain, although it's not disclosed publicly yet, it looks pretty sure that Thierry Boutsen is going to go and drive for Williams.
Well,
that'll be an interesting move.
That slip there by Nannini, is that because his tires are wearing out?
I think his tires, they'll be getting very, very hot. These rain tires, when they run in the dry, get exceedingly hot, and they lose their grip. The compact then is spun again onto the grass. Oh, now he's had it now. He's in that sand trap. Let's hope he keeps it rolling, otherwise you'll never get out. Oh, now he might have a problem. You're not supposed to do that.
Well, he's playing in a sandbox there. You got to give this guy credit. That's the second spin of the day, and he's in the top 5.
I have a nasty feeling that you're not supposed to do that at the Woodcote Complex, because I did that in a 1,000-kilometer race here in May, and I turned around and doubled back, because I was pretty sure you couldn't do that.
Really?
Look at the mud coming off the wheels there, the mud and grass all coming out of the tread on those tires. I think Nannini's tires have gone off completely.
Yeah, that's how I see it.
We're going to see a replay. He's not looking for the water like Nigel is. Under braking. Whoa.
There he goes. That's
Getting
a good
away. Into the sand trap, or the gravel trap. Now he's jolly lucky that he didn't get stuck in there. I mean, that's what they're for.
That's right. Those gravel patches have been put in here to replace the catch fences that used to be in place. It's a safety device. They can see the wind coming off the edges of his wings. Really heavy moisture, high humidity out there today.
Well, of course, it's pretty well 100%, really, because it's sort of right on the verge of raining hard. Nannini putting in a sterling performance today.
Here's a guy that spun twice, and he comes right back
from
for
more. He still hasn't lost another position, because there's the Ferrari, and Gugelmin is still behind him.
Right.
Keep doing that all day, you'll be all right with it.
Well, let's go down now to our colleague John Bisignano in the pits for a story on tires.
Thank you very much, Chris. We're with Lee Gogg, the managing director of Goodyear International Motorsports. Lee, how long can these wet tires last in semi-dry conditions?
Well, we'd really like to see a little more rain right now. If you notice, some of the cars are now getting out of line to keep their tires wet. It's still too wet for dries, but the dry line is starting to hurt the tires. So it depends on how wet it gets. We'd like to see a little more rain right now, really, John.
So if it starts to dry out, they're either going to have to come in for fresh wets or change to slicks. That's a very tough decision to make.
If it starts drying off, they'll have to come in for dries, and that's tough because it's rained every 20 minutes here, so we don't know what's going to happen.
Let me ask you, Lee, you're on the inside of these teams. Is it the team manager or the driver that makes that final decision?
Well, I think it's the team manager, actually. He's watching the clock. He knows what the weather is, and he brings the car in. Team manager.
Well, we're looking for a great Goodyear action down here. We could have wets or dries momentarily. Back to you.
All right, John, I do have to
have a slight issue with Lee there. If I'm out there and I know what the track's I'm the bloke that makes the decision. I don't care what the team manager tells me.
You're your own team manager, right, David?
He tells me to come in for slicks, and I think I like those wet tires. I'll stick to the wet side.
You're deaf then. Well, looking up at the sky here, it's fairly bright around the track, and because I don't live in this area. You live, what, 15 miles from here, David? Is it going to rain again?
Well, it certainly looks very, very threatening. The cloud level is still very low, and they're scudding along, and there's a high wind. There's a very high probability that it'll rain again.
One of the things these Formula One drivers do is stress fitness, and in many cases, Niki Lauda started it, they bring their own masseur, osteopath, or chiropractor to the track with them. Philippe Streff has done that, and here's Alain Prost, who dropped out of the race, getting a massage in the garage there by the team masseur. And And I wonder if maybe he was in trouble physically in the car.
I'm wondering if, with all this rain around, his suit would get very, very wet. And although he would be extremely hot, there would be a cool draft running past his shoulders. He may have got some sort of terminal cramp in his shoulder or his arm and just couldn't drive.
A muscle spasm, perhaps.
Yeah.
Okay, there we see 3 cars getting around, going with Cup. It's the British Grand Prix for 1988, and we'll be back for more in 1 minute. Well, Ivan Capelli, the March driver, has made a stop for fresh tires. Here he is exiting the pits. It was about a 13.5-second pit stop, which is pretty long by Formula One standards. But that will set the stage now. We want to see what he's got on, whether they're wets or dries.
I think that he put more wets on, which it's unlikely that these teams have got more than a couple of sets of wets mounted on rims. So if it doesn't rain again for him soon, it could be in problem. Otherwise, there could be some mechanics, a lot of mechanics running back to the old Goodyear truck, getting those tires fixed. There we see our leader, Ayrton Senna, also looking for water to keep his tires cool. I don't see any signs of chunking. Sometimes you can see the black, extra black line on the tires where they start to come apart. He's just passed. That's Thierry Boots in the back of the pits there, who I think he's just put a lap on.
Well, you can see that the track is dry in certain areas and wet in yet other areas. There's the leader, Ayrton Senna, holds a 15.8-second lead over Gerhard Berger. Nigel Mansell is now 3rd. Nannini is 4th. Gugelmin is 5th. Alboreto 6th. Piquet is 7th. Boutsen is 8th. Capelli is 9th. And Derek Warwick is 10th in this British Grand Prix in its 35th lap.
And Ayrton Senna, of course, has not only lapped Thierry Boutsen, but right in front of Thierry Boutsen, that Camel Lotus is, of course, his countryman and not his strongest fan, Nelson Piquet, who no doubt Ayrton Senna will be saying, well, suck that sea, sunshine, as he went by.
Senna doesn't seem to see the rain or feel it because he's lapped everybody but the 4 cars behind him.
Certainly putting a good show on here. Thierry Boutsen not going quite as well as I thought he would. Nothing like as well as his teammate Nannini, but of course he could have a slight problem. He got a bit left out at the start, I think, and getting left out in that spray wasn't good for him. There we see some slick tyres ready to be mounted. Capelli back again. Obviously his problem was not just tyres.
Well, that's true. I wonder how long Senna will stay out there.
I don't know, it's pretty dry now. I mean, you could get away with slicks now, but if you're forced onto the wet on slicks, you'd be in bad trouble still.
The race is past the halfway point. That's any important information for the drivers out there.
Well, at this point, if all hell broke loose, you could call it a race. But I can't see why it shouldn't break loose.
And look at him, hunting water there. Seems like Nigel Mansell somehow becomes a showman at the British Grand Prix.
Well, I guess he wants to put on a good show. He wants to put on a good show to his new employers who are going to pay him an awful lot of money in 1989. And obviously, everybody likes to do well in front of their home crowd. It's fascinating, actually, how many drivers have won their home Grand Prix, and it's the first Grand Prix they've ever won, and sometimes don't win many other Grand Prix either. It's quite extraordinary. I can't win anything at Silverstone, which is also extraordinary.
Right. That's because you're sleeping in your own bed instead of one of those expensive hotel rooms, David.
Oh, is that it? Not even like expensive foreign food.
That's true. You know, it's interesting, in this British Grand Prix, there's some regulations that prevail here that do not prevail in any other Grand Prix, and that is no cigarette advertising. You notice the leader's car, Ayrton Senna, has got a lot of black dashes on it. That's canceling out its Marlboro sponsorship. And Lotus cars are back here by the British conglomerate Courtaulds. The interesting treatment of that particular ban on cigarette advertising here is by the Zaxby team, which is sponsored by a West German cigarette called West. They just changed the lettering on the car to East and got around the ban that way.
And got a lot of good publicity out of it, too. It was pretty cute. When I first saw it, I thought, well, it doesn't look right somehow, but there we see Nannini coming back from his 3rd spin, and he is making a bit of ground on Nige again. He's now 7 seconds behind Nigel, and he was about 9 seconds behind him. So he's catching up yet again, and of course he's still got the same tyres on which he spun twice. So I'm sure he'll be looking for more water to cool them off a bit. There we see him where he spun last time. Jolly lucky to get away with that. You see, damaged his wing there.
Yeah.
You can see the end plate on his right-hand wing has been damaged. Very important part of his wing.
Gerhard Berger, the Austrian, still at it out there, but he's 17.8 seconds behind leader Ayrton Senna, Brazil's McLaren Honda.
There's no doubt about it, in qualifying, Gerhard Berger and Alboreto did a very, very stout job. But when it comes to racing, I tell you, those Honda, McLarens and Ayrton Senna are a tough combo to beat.
The pressures in qualifying yesterday were intense. 3 of the 4 fastest drivers spun. Senna spun twice. Alain Prost spun, something he rarely does, and Michele Alboreto spun. The only one who didn't spin was Berger, and I said to him after qualifying, I said, you know, Gerhard, you're the only man in the top 4 that didn't spin, and he said, I guess I wasn't trying hard enough.
Even though he was in fact on the pole. There we see our lead. There's a bit of water around there. We're coming up to the Beckett's corner here, and he's about to put a lap on Alboreto.
Right. You can see now. You can see the black marks on the side of Senna's McLaren that blot out the illegal advertising. See that next time we get a look at number 12. Traffic on the track here. Now, there's Boutsen looking for water.
Yes. His tires still be going. He'd like, oh, no, his engine's gone. No, his tire's gone.
Yeah.
Is that his tire or his engine?
It looks like it looks like the tire's smoking. It's getting pretty hot. That's why we were looking to cool it off.
Very blue for engine smoke. Thierry and the other normally aspirated guys really could do with some rain now.
There's that car with the black stripes on the rear end.
Doesn't seem to mind what he has, whether he has rain or not. I'm sure we'll see Boutsen come into the pits here. No, we don't.
You know, it could very well be raining on the other side of the circuit and still dry here, David, because it hasn't rained on the main stretch for quite some time.
This is true.
How about that? Mansell has turned the fastest lap at 1:24.72,
which is an average speed of 127 miles an hour, which, as you can see, is a long way off our pole position speed of 152 miles an hour. And that'd be just being the last few laps in the dry when it's relatively dry. But rain tires in the dry just don't really work at all. I mean, they are very, very suspect in the dry, even before they go off.
There we have Terry Boutsen with a hot car.
Yes. Unfortunately, the end of a good run for Thierry. He had 2 great races in North America. Came 3rd in Montreal, 3rd in Detroit. Had a very unpleasant weekend last weekend in Paul Ricard, France, where he had an engine blow up, and it looks like he's had a repeat of that this day.
Looks like it might be the gearbox area or something in the car. Tough break for the youngster from Belgium, who does such a good job, not only at the wheel, but with the press and with the sponsors. And there's Frank Williams, Nigel Mansell's car owner, who said it will be war with Mansell afterwards, but right now he's rooting for him.
Right now he's rooting for him, and we'll be a bit sorry to see Thierry out, if in fact Thierry Boutsen is going to go to Williams next year. An interesting conjecture, and I think it'll be a good career move for Thierry, because I think that Renault engine could be pretty strong. But the Benetton Ford is also a very, very good combination. Ford are putting a lot of resources into engines and development, and I certainly wouldn't walk willingly away from Ford, especially if they were paying me enough money.
Well, you know, one of the top Ferrari engine men announced this week that he's going to return to Renault to work on this V10 engine for the 1989 season. So they're getting their crew together.
A lot of good technical development work just around the corner, all of it normally aspirated, non-turbo. And I'm sure that within the next 5 years we're going to see nearly 700 horsepower out of a 3.5-litre normally aspirated engine, which is pretty good to say the least.
It's pretty dry there, except for coming off on the reverse camber side of the circuit where the water collects.
Down on that main hangar straight.
Senna has now pulled out to a 23-second lead over Gerhard Berger. Mansell is 3rd, almost a minute behind Senna. Nannini 4th, Gugelmin 5th, Alboreto 6th, Piquet 7th, Warwick is 8th, Nakajima's 9th, and Cheever is now 10th.
And there, of course, you have a pretty graphic description of the difference between Berger and Alboreto. I mean, they're driving team cars, very comparable cars, and Berger is nearly a minute ahead of his teammate, which is an awful lot in just over half distance. And Alboreto is an extremely qualified and extremely fast driver, so it just shows how good and how much extra these superstar guys like Senna, Berger, and Prost really do have.
Well, you know, we've always said in the States, David, that a hungry race driver is a good race driver. And Alberto's been one of these multi-million-dollar drivers for a few years now. You think maybe you lose your urge to go fast and you got all that money in the bank?
The only thing against that, of course, is Alan Prost. I mean, no one's made more money than Prost and won more races. And I think that just seems to make him hungry. And, of course, the other guy, who the absolutely ultimate racing driver, to my mind, is Mario Andretti.
Exactly.
Who's been making millions for years and years and years and has never abated his effort or his
he has the
one
same
bit.
appetite for the race that he had when he was 21 years old. Well, we're looking at the McLaren pits now, which may mean that leader Ayrton Senna is going to be headed pitward for some fresh tires. Could put a new face on the race if that happens, particularly if Berger decides to stay on the rubber he has throughout the rest of the day.
Well, the sky actually to the west and south is a fraction lighter, and of course these guys are almost bound to be in contact with one of the local US Air Force bases around here to get a really definitive weather forecast, and they may know that they've got like an hour of clear weather, at which stage, if I was them, I'd go on the slicks about now.
We've got an airport right in the infield there. We can get some information over there.
Well, it wouldn't be as good as the US Air Force base, would it?
Okay, and there's leader Ayrton Senna headed down the track, and we'll be back for more of the British Grand Prix after these commercial messages.
ESPN Speed World coverage of the British Grand Prix is sponsored by USF&G Financial Services, asset management tools for a brave new world, and by Quaker State Motor Oil. The big Q stands for quality, always has, always will.
And we're back at the track with the British Grand Prix racing surface here, the Silverstone track, drying out, and pit stops expected momentarily by the leader, Ayrton Senna, and those who follow him, Gerhard Berger, Nigel Mansell, Alessandro Nannini, and Mauricio Gugelmin in the top 5 places right now.
Mansell and Nannini sort of staying about the same distance apart, about 7 seconds. Nannini not making any more ground on Mansell.
Here's Nigel Mansell. You know, his love of golf is no secret, but at Friday's press conference, where he spelled out his reasons for joining Ferrari next year, he revealed that he's been accepted for the Australian Open Pro Golf Tournament. A close friend of Australian golfing star Greg Norman, who was accompanied to many events, Mansell had Sandy Lyle as his personal guest here last week for a test session. So he's got some options open. He can play golf for money if he wants to.
Yeah, I think he probably could. He's an extremely good golfer, and of course he absolutely loves it. He finds it great relaxation and is very, very good at it.
Now we have Gerhard Berger coming up to put a lap on one of the Lotuses.
Cale Yarber used to like jumping out of airplanes for relaxation. I think I'll take golf. There's Nigel Mansell's done another best lap, a 123.8, 127 miles an hour. Speed gradually creeping up.
Okay, now let's take a look back here as to what's happened in this competition since the green flag waved just 1 hour and 1 minute ago.
Here we see the pass to the lead. Senna in the third on that picture. Whistles round the outside of Berger. Berger was momentarily held up there by Alan Prost and the other Marlboro McLaren in front there. And Senna is about, as he goes under the Daily Express bridge, is about to, in fact, duff his teammate up as well, who's not aware that he's coming in, starts to turn into the corner, swerves out to miss his teammate, and Berger slips by as well. Both of them putting a lap on Alan Prost. Shortly after this, he gave up in disgust. Here we see him coming into the pits.
This is the last look we get of Alain Prost. Watch him as he gets out of the car. Maybe no words with anybody. His personal pop-off valve, I think, was open.
Spring broke.
Away he went.
So that's the end of our current World Championship leader, Nannini. Spinning there as he comes into the Woodcote complex in front of Nigel Mansell. Did not get stuck in the gravel barrier. Drove behind the guardrail, which I'm not sure you're allowed to do, and rejoined the race.
That was Nannini's second spin of the race. In each case, he maintained his position. We're back live now, and there's Nigel Mansell, the third-place runner, a full minute behind leader Ayrton Senna. Gerhard Berger between them in second position. That's a McLaren Honda, a Ferrari, and a Williams Judd from a mechanical standpoint in the top 3 positions. A Benetton Ford is 4th, and a March Judd is 5th. And Senna has lapped all but the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th place drivers.
Nigel Mansell here desperately looking for water on this track to cool off those rain tires. they'll all be in a terrible dilemma as to whether or not to change to slicks, because there's a very, very good chance that no sooner they put the slicks on than it could rain again. However, these guys in the Ferrari pit seem to be pretty determined that they are going to put some slicks on, come what may. Well, these rain tyres at this stage will be pretty shot. I mean, they just don't like this sort of condition.
Well, David, we noted in Brazil, oh, look at this, pit sign here. More rain coming back. Berger out slow, it says.
Berger out slow?
That's,
whose pit was that?
Hieroglyphics on those pit boards, hard to understand. It's interesting what Formula One people refer to as slow.
Yes, there we see Nigel running close to the pit barrier, and of course we are seeing rather a lot of Nigel this afternoon, which I find absolutely extraordinary, as our pictures are coming from the BBC. I can't understand it.
I just say, when we were in Rio, we saw a lot of the Brazilians. We're in Italy, we saw a lot of the Italians, and it figures that while we're in England, we'd see a lot of the Brits.
And there we see Nigel again, coming up to Beckett's. You can see there in the edge of the picture, well, you can't see it now, so I won't talk about it. There we see, sliding around there as he goes to Beckett's. Tyres going off, track greasy. It'll be very greasy when these guys go to slicks, too. They'll feel like threepenny bits. That's an old coin we used to have in England, which was a six-sided coin. There's something about cold, slick tyres when you hit a damp track. This is obviously not bone dry. They are very horrible for the first couple of laps. But these guys are now starting to have a major problem with these rain tyres as they go away. The tread gets hot, it moves around, cars move around on the tread, and that makes the tread work more. It gets hotter and gets less and less effective. There we see Alboreto in the pits.
Well, now this is interesting. We'll see how good the Ferrari pit crew is. They were great earlier this year. Now let's go down to the pits and John Bisignano.
Thank you, Chris. Alboreto has just arrived here in the Ferrari pits. For sure, they are putting on slick tires. They were trying to keep it a secret. They had both brakes and slicks out here, but it was the slicks that Alboreto went out on. A very, very quick pit stop and a very brave Alboreto.
That was a good pit stop. You know, years and years ago, a Ferrari pit stop used to be likened to a Chinese fire drill, but now they've really become professional. In the meantime, Nigel Mansell is chipping away at Gerhard Berger. He's cut the interval to about 12 seconds and is actually turning the track faster than Berger at the moment.
He's turning the track faster than anybody else. He keeps doing the fastest lap of the race, which is pretty good considering Senna has such a tremendous lead. And now Nigel is only 8 seconds behind Gerhard Berger. Either Gerhard Berger's got a problem with his car or his tyres have really gone off. It's more likely that Berger's tyres, of course, will go off more than Nigel's, because he's putting another 100 horsepower through those rear tyres.
Right. Turbocharger. Here's where a pit crew doing a good job can really mean something for a driver. If Mansell's pit crew can give him one of those 6-second stops, think of what a plus that would be in his quest of passing Gerhard Berger.
Absolutely. I'm sure that there we see Alboreto in the car 27 Ferrari. Now this is interesting.
Hey!
Nelson Piquet having a go. Ayrton Senna has also slowed right up.
Well, that's his Brazilian friend Nelson Piquet right there. This could be interesting.
Obviously, Piquet will just be unlapping himself, but it's funny that Ayrton Senna would slow up quite so much. I guess all these guys are just flat running out of tyre. They've got to the point in the race where they have to make a decision. They're going to have to make a decision. So we could see a lot of pit stops coming up. And I'm sure that John Bisignano down in the pits will be glad, because he can go rushing from pit to pit, giving us little tidbits of information on every stop as it happens.
Well, this is interesting because we understand now that Senna's been told to stay out while the McLaren pit monitors Alboreto's car on slicks. They want to know how a competitive car on slicks will fare. A pretty slick operation down there with Ron Dennis.
A very slick operation. Is that a play upon words, or is this a slip of the tongue?
Take it any way you like, David, but I admire the McLaren operations, and it is a slick one.
Oh, gosh, Ron Dennis, who runs that operation now, is probably one of the sharpest men in motor racing. He's got all his ducks in a row. He's incredibly well sponsored, has the best engine package, the best design package, and of course the best driver.
Well, now Mansell has closed within 5 seconds of Gerhard Berger, and he
about to be taken off by his countryman, Julian Bailey.
Right.
Bit of fish shaking going on there, probably.
The big talk in the pits about Bailey is that whether the check will be in the mail for his second and last payment on the $2 million he's supposed to be obligated to Ken Carroll for this year's ride.
I was kind of assuming it was in the mail in view of the fact that he was here, because I thought it had to arrive before this race. I could be wrong, I don't know.
That's one of the major fibs told in the world, you know, the check is in the mail.
Absolutely. It's It's interesting to keep an eye on old Nigel really going for the water here, running right offline there as he came round Woodcote, up by the pit wall again there, picking up the water, and he's right behind Berger. There's Berger, just disappeared out of our picture. There we see Berger, just right in front of Nigel Mansell now. Berger has slowed way up.
About that. This Mansell is really putting on a show today, and he's closing in on the second place driver, Gerhard Berger, what it looks like he may get him. Stay tuned. We'll be back.
But I think that Gerhard got to be in some sort of other problem other than just tires. Otherwise, he'd just come in and put some new ones on.
What about the 80 pounds difference in weight between a turbo car and a non-turbo being lighter on the tires, David?
Well, of course, that would help the tire wear considerably. Start line weight, of course, they're about the same because the non-turbos start with a lot more gasoline on board. But as the race progresses, as this one has done for an hour and 10 minutes or so, yeah, the normally aspirated car will be lighter and will be lighter and easier on its tires.
You know, it's interesting. Last year's Grand Prix here took an hour and 16 minutes to complete. We're into this race an hour and 11 minutes, and we've got about 15 laps to go.
Well, I'm surprised it's been as quick as it has. Actually, it might slow down again in a minute, too, because I see rain on our commentary box. Now the track will be tricky because these guys' tires are just about shot, and the track has dried out. If it should rain hard again now, those rain tires will have lost a lot of their efficacy and won't be much good in really deep water anymore. So the thing is, would they then come in and put new rain tires on? A tricky question, Chris, that only they can answer.
I mean, a driver is in trouble when his tires have lost their efficacy. There's no question about that.
This is absolutely true.
There we have...
Nannini, of course, is now past Berger. Berger, if it's just... I can't believe it's just tires, otherwise he'd stop.
You'd think they'd bring him in.
Well, it must be something else. He must have an engine problem of some sort. I can't believe he'd just stay out and let everybody pass him because his tires have gone off. I mean, he'd put new ones on.
Well, you know, here's Ayrton Senna in a turbo McLaren Honda leading a non-turbo car. You know, it's been a long time since a non-turbo car won a Grand Prix race. Alboreto was the last winner in 1983 in Detroit 5 years ago. And if something should happen to Senna's car, Nigel Mansell was the heir apparent.
Talking of Alboreto, we haven't seen much of Alboreto since he went on to slicks. So I wonder how the monitoring progress is going on his car. He's still languishing in 11th spot, so it didn't seem to help him an awful lot, and I don't know whether he's picking up or not. In fact, he's into the pits again as we speak. How astute I must be to talk about Alboreto just when he's coming in.
Perhaps our man John Bisignani can fill us in on what they're doing. John, you down there?
We are right here in the Ferrari pit, and obviously it was the wrong choice of tires going out with those slicks because, as you said, it started to rain immediately after they put the slick tires on. Alboreto may be circulating around for 5 laps or so, but it was very slick for him out there, and everyone else is keeping the rain tires up front. The slicks are still in the garage. Back to you, Chris.
Now, of course, if it should rain really hard now,
he really has.
The guy that's going to be quids in is Alboreto, who's got brand new wet tires.
He'd be in great shape. But right now, he's
in rotten shape. He must be 2 laps down at least. Oh, yeah, he's 2 laps down.
2 laps off the pace. That's pretty difficult to make up.
And it is raining here in the commentary box. At least it's raining quite hard, which means it must be raining down at Stowe Club, which is the hairy parts of the track. And of course, everybody out there will be pretty glad to see it rain again, I think.
Well, Mansell is now 1 minute 3 seconds abaft leader Senna, and Nannini is about 9 seconds behind Mansell, the third-place man. Here's the signals now from the Ferrari pit.
Well, Berger is told to slow down. He's 29 seconds ahead of Gugelmin, which of course is not, because Gugelmin's just in fact passed him. So Gugelmin must have picked up 29 seconds on that lap.
That's correct.
So Berger is obviously in extremely bad trouble. I must admit that when Berger went around that last corner, looking at his tyres, his rear tyres didn't look as if they had much tread. I mean, it may be that turbocharged engine is just clean those tyres up.
The track can't be too bad, David, because Mansell a few laps ago again set a fastest lap of 1 minute 23.308 just about 5 laps ago.
Which isn't bad, actually. If it was dry, their race lap would be round about 1:15, so they're about 12 seconds off, about 8 seconds off what you'd expect to be doing anyway. There we see Nelson Piquet having a go at his teammate, his countryman Ayrton Senna, and takes the lap back off Senna. but I guess Senna's got a minute lead, so I suppose he's not exactly panicking at this stage.
Well, with Ayrton Senna working on lap 55, he leads by a minute 15 seconds over Nigel Mansell. Alessandro Nannini is third. Gerhard Berger in a Ferrari is fourth. Mauricio Gugelmin in a March Judd is fifth. Nelson Piquet in a Lotus Honda is sixth. Derek Warwick in an Arrows Megatron is seventh. Along his teammate Eddie Cheever is eighth in an Arrows Megatron. Ricardo Patrese in a Williams is ninth. And Satoru Nakajima is 10th. And we'll be back for more of the British Grand Prix. National Old Timers Baseball Classic on ESPN, Monday, July 11th at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific Time. Among the stars expected, Hank Aaron, Lou Brock, Joe DiMaggio, and Jim Catfish Hunter. The first year this event has been played in Buffalo, New York. In the past, it's taken place in Washington, D.C. And ESPN, like Ayrton Senna, is slowing down a little bit.
Ayrton Senna slowed down a lot. And I guess he's preserving his tires. The track has been dry for a long time now, or relatively dry. However, it is raining again, and it'll slicken up a lot, and of course that'll also help save these tires. If I had a minute 15 seconds, or a minute 18 seconds, which he's got now, I must say, I think I'd be inclined to come in for some new tires just anyway.
Well, as we draw near and near the finish line, Nelson Piquet has come alive a little bit, and he's catching Gerhard Berger, trying to pick up a position there. Berger is back in fifth place. Again, Senna leads Nigel Mansell, Alessandro Nannini, Mauricio Gugelmin, and then it's Berger and Piquet. This will be quite a finish for Gugelmin. Here he is here in the march.
It'll be quite a finish for Nigel Mansell, too. Second, really will have picked things up from where he qualified, which was 11th. So a very, very good day for Nigel Mansell. A bit lucky there with Berger.
Yeah, but don't forget, Mansell's been in the 100. This is Mansell's 112th Grand Prix, but for Gugelmin, it's only his sixth start. Or seventh start. He's had six behind him.
A great start. A great finish for him, it'll be. And, of course, the locally based March team. The March being made in the town of Bicester, which is really only a 25-minute drive from here at Silverstone, which is one of the reasons these cars go so well here. This is their private test track sort of thing.
Okay, now let's go down to our pit associate, John Visignano, for a fuel story.
Well, it's a bit of a fuelish story, actually, Chris. As I said before, they are giving Ayrton Senna the boost signal time after time. I don't know if he's really adhering to it too well, because at one point they had 3 boost signals on one bloody pit board, so someone's getting a little upset. Probably Ron Dennis, the team owner. Gentleman started as a Brabham mechanic and has been ruling Formula One for the last several years. Watch Senaton going more and more slowly. He wants to come in, not for tires, but only at the end of the race with a victory. He needs enough fuel to do that. Back to you, Chris.
Well, thank you, John. They said this rainy weather obviated fuel problems, David, but maybe it's his tires. His lead now is only 53 seconds over Nigel Mansell. Before it was over a minute. So Mansell has picked up close to 8 or 9 seconds on Senna. It's a long interval. There he is. You can see he's really not getting it out through that corner.
It's a long interval with only about 8 laps to go. Yes, that's for sure.
Now it's our leader, Ayrton Senna of Brazil. He's 28 years old and has gone through the stepping stones to this form of racing in the proper manner.
Nigel's tires don't look too shabby. You can see that spray starting to develop again as the track wettens up again in this last flurry of rain here. The sky again has got a bit lower. The clouds have become lower, and it is definitely raining quite hard out there.
Well, Mansell has knocked another 2 seconds off of Senna's lead on that last time around. Now he is closing, and of course, the people in the stands and around the bankings, as they call the verges here at Silverstone, are really rooting him on.
Nigel was just waving at one of his fellow competitors when he passed, probably saying what a nice day it was, or something similar to that anyway.
You know, he won the last 2 Grand Prix here. He'd love to make it 3 straight.
Well, if Senna has any sort of problem, of course, it is certainly possible that he could do that.
It's amazing. This car has not finished a single Grand Prix this year. 7 DNFs and 7 starts, and here it is now gaining on the leader, lying second. It's interesting. A man won 6 Grand Prix last year and has had a dismal year this year. It shows you how important the mechanical part of Formula One racing is. The man-machine equation, unfortunately, has become more and more mechanically oriented in recent years.
In fact, it looks like he's about to put a lap on his old teammate, Nelson Piquet there in the... is that Nelson Piquet or is that Nakamura? Nakajima?
Hard to tell from afar like this. Oh.
You'll like it too. Yeah, it's Nakajima. He's just put a lap on the low.
Nakajima looked very well this morning in the wet track warm-up, better than he looked in the morning warm-up all year long. There's Nigel Mansell now. Got the interval behind Ayrton Senna's only 50 seconds. And we'll be back for more of the British Grand Prix after this. Ayrton Senna just flashed over the start-finish line, which means there are 5 laps remaining in the 1988 British Grand Prix. And Briton Nigel Mansell is still second, less than 50 seconds behind. We've got a clock ticking away to get the actual reading on how far Senna is, or how far Mansell is behind Senna. This has been an interesting race from that standpoint. We'll see whether Mr. Senna is judged properly and whether he is a better team manager than Ron Dennis. The competition goes for 65 laps here today. All Grand Prix races cannot go more than 2 hours and be brought to a stop. The rules are very specific on that in this new era of Grand Prix racing. And here we have the yellow-helmeted Ayrton Senna. His real name is Ayrton Senna da Silva from Brazil. Out in front, heading into a cloud of spray on this oh-so-flat and oh-so-fast Silverstone circuit.
And he's about to come and lap Gerhard Berger in the number 28 Ferrari. Gerhard, who led the first few laps from the pole position from Senna and had a good race with Senna, but obviously Gerhard's car is deranged in some way. It can't just be tires. You can see that spray is really reappearing now. The track has got very, very considerably wet again, and Mansell, as you can see, is now 48 seconds behind. I don't think he's going to make it in 4 laps unless he's extremely lucky.
Well, that's true, but one never knows. We've seen some races over time where the leading driver has fallen out with fuel problems or other mechanical problems on the very last lap.
Jimmy Clark in South Africa in 1962 should have won the World Championship, but stopped with about 2 laps to go with some silly little bolt that dropped out of an oil passage, so it can happen, that's for sure.
That was my first Grand Prix telecast, David Hobb.
Oh, there you go.
Graham Hill went on to win. It was a great day down there in East London, South Africa.
Senna takes Berger, so Berger joins the dismal ranks of the lapped cars.
That's got to be a tough, bitter pill for Gerhard Berger to swallow.
Yeah, I mean, he had second really well and truly locked up here. I don't know what's gone wrong, but whatever he thinks, it's obviously not worth trying to come in and fix it.
What kind of an emotional blow is that, to know that some guy that's supposed to be favored with you to win this thing puts a lap on you?
Well, it's not very good, and it's one of the problems with racing, which I've always felt, that the driver gets all the kudos, but he also gets the blame when things go wrong, and unfortunately there is so much dependence on the car, unlike other games like tennis, golf and athletics, where really it is man against man, and this is man against man, but you've always got that other equation in there, which is the car, and there's nothing you can do about it.
And we've never heard a golfer blame his clubs for a bad day on the links.
Well, there's not much of a reason for him to do that.
3 laps to go here in the 1988 British Grand Prix, with Ayrton Senna leading Nigel Mansell, Alessandro Nannini, Mauricio Gugelmin, Nelson Piquet, Gerhard Berger, Derek Warwick, Eddie Cheever, Riccardo Patrese, Satoru Nakajima, and Alex Caffey.
Well, Derek Warwick, another British driver. There's only 4 British drivers in this race. Derek Warwick, if he can keep going, he may also catch up and pass Berger. He's right behind him now, and if he can do that on the next 3 laps, that'll put Warwick into the points. It'll give him 1 point for 6.
Well, he and his teammate Eddie Cheever are very cheerful guys, but they do have their own private battle on the racetrack, and they're again nose to tail out there.
There we see Nigel Mansell again going through Beckett's corner, which is one of the tighter corners here, the second tightest corner, and he swings down onto Hanger Straight. Hanger Straight obviously is named Hanger Straight after the hangars that were here in World War II. And Beckett's Corner is called Beckett's Corner because Thomas Beckett's Chapel used to be, the ruins of Thomas Beckett's Chapel were just over there, so hence Beckett's Corner and Chapel Curve.
Thomas a Beckett.
Thomas a Beckett. And there we see him coming through Stowe, which is named after the school that stands right behind it. This is Club Corner, which is where the clubhouse used to be. Comes up to Abbey Curve. Used to be an abbey there back in the Middle Ages. And of course he comes to Woodcote.
Now where Ayrton Senna had over a minute lead on Nigel Mansell, that's been reduced now to 37 seconds.
Well,
remarkable how hard Mansell is pushing this car, knowing that he really can't catch him.
Well, the only thing about pushing hard in a race like this is it's not over till it's over. And he really could pull a tremendous coup if just the slightest thing was to go wrong with Senna. The closer you get, obviously the less mistake the other guy needs to make, and you can always win. So you never want to give up. Classic case in point being the, I think that's the Acela that's pulled off.
Nicola Larini, the rookie, started last today. Well, everybody here is rooting for Nigel Mansell.
There we see Eddie Cheever, and just right in front of him is Derek Warwick. So these two putting on a real grandstand finish here. Both of them would love to pass Gerhard Berger and get that extra point.
And they both want to look good because the chairman of the board of USF&G is among those watching today's race.
Among the assembled throngs, and there is a lot of people here, notwithstanding it's such a lousy day.
You know, the caterer told me they're going to serve 18,000 hot lunches today, not to fans, but to corporate guests. 18,000 guests here of corporations and businesses. The hospitality business in racing is really booming.
It's a big business.
All right, and now Ayrton Senna, leading this competition, has one circuit of this racetrack to go before claiming a victory. It will be his 10th career victory. He's got 22 pole positions. What a record. This is his 70th start. He's got 22 pole positions. It'll be his 10th victory, and he has 9 fast laps. Unless he gets on at this one to get the 10th fast lap, that honor will go to Nigel Mansell.
And here's Gerhard Berger. Is that Gerhard Berger right behind him, about to retake that lap back? Maybe he won't bother. Right behind Berger, you saw Derek Warwick's helmet there. So this could be a grandstand finish for Derek Warwick. There they are, all three of them. Senna taking his time, obviously, because
here's Warwick challenging Berger. Not too much distance left.
Now these two could all run into Senna trying to get this final point. They could both run into Senna, and that would make us Arnaud Le Vainqueur.
Going on in the steam there. Oh. Derek is really
There's
getting
Mansell,
it up.
right, Mansell coming into the picture, right behind our leader. No, not going to make it. Nigel Mansell's going to finish just the tick of the watch, really, behind the leader.
And here comes Ayrton Senna down the line to take the checkered flag of victory, and Nigel Mansell less than 100 yards behind.
Berger goes onto the grass, and Warwick, in fact, does pick up 6th spot right on the line, and Cheever picks up 7th, and Berger drops to 8th, pulls in and stops down there.
Can't stand the pressure. Here, my old colleague Howard Cosell used to say.
Well, that was a very close finish. In the end, of course, Nigel only finished about 2 seconds behind Ayrton Senna.
And there's Frank Williams, the owner of the Williams team, which Nigel Mansell will leave at the end of the season to go for Ferrari. I tell you, this has got to be a tribute to Senna's judgment on how to make his car last.
Absolutely.
He dropped it way down. It was about less than 30 seconds interval there. That last lap, Mansell closed it within an extremely short period of time. We'll know in a minute or two exactly what the interval was. So Nigel Mansell finishes second to Ayrton Senna in the 1988 British Grand Prix. More in a minute. And it was 28-year-old Brazilian superstar Ayrton Senna scoring his 10th career victory and the 8th in a row for the phenomenal Team McLaren in today's 38th British Grand Prix. 33-year-old Nigel Mansell, a Britisher, thrilled the crowd with his second-place finish and posting the fastest lap of the day. 29-year-old Italian Alessandro Nannini was third, and freshman Brazilian Mauricio Gugelmin, 25 years old, a brilliant fourth-place finisher. World champion Nelson Piquet, also of Brazil, was fifth. And Derek Warwick of England was 6th in a dramatic last lap pass. Now, pick 6, while our pit reporter John Bizignano won today by picking the winner, Ayrton Senna, and the 5th place driver, Nelson Piquet. David Hobbs, you were 2nd by picking the winner, and I got blanked. David, what did you think of it?
Well, of course, Senna displayed once again the total superiority of the Honda McLaren package, having a great race. Gerhard Berger made the Ferrari look very good to start with, but obviously suffered from some internal gremlin and dropped away. Nigel Mansell put on a super show for the British crowd, although I think it was a little bit of a freak result for him because of the weather conditions. And of course, Nannini 3rd and Gugelmin 4th were terrific drives from both of those drivers, Nannini especially having spun twice.
Well, okay, John, how did you see it?
Well, we saw it like a drowned rat down here in the pit lane, actually. It's been raining all afternoon. We're going to go try and get dry. I have to re-emphasize what David said. I think the Ferraris now may be able to compete with the McLaren, especially at Hockenheim, the German Grand Prix, in 2 weeks' time. They're knocking on that door as they've been trying to all weekend long. A great weekend for the Brits. A British team won this Grand Prix, and of course, I've never seen Nigel Mansell so happy since this time last year. Back to you warm, dry guys up in the booth.
All right, so after it's all over, Alain Prost, who fell out, still leads the World Championship standings with 54 tallies. Senna is 2nd with 48. Berger 3rd with 21. Nelson Piquet 4th with 15. Michele Alboreto 5th with 13. And Terry Boutsen 6th with 11 tallies. Derek Warwick is next with 9. Mansell has his first point, 6. And Nannini has 6. So, as I saw it, Ayrton Senna will go down in the record books as one of the truly great drivers of all time, not only for his ability to handle a car at high speeds, win pole positions, and win races, but also to take circumstances into condition and make his cars last, which is exactly what he did here today. Tires wearing out, a wet track, a dangerous course, and he won it. And this is Chris Economaki for David Hobbs and John Bizignano saying so long from Silverstone. We'll be talking to you from Hockenheim, Germany in 2 weeks.